Some laws treat your driveway like it's a high-stakes crime scene. You roll out the trash can 2 minutes early, and suddenly you're a menace to society. Adjust your car stereo? Congratulations, you've committed a Class A felony against suburban tranquility. It's wild. You can be on your own property, minding your own business, and still break rules written by someone who definitely owns a clipboard and has never laughed in their life. And the best part? These laws are real, enforceable, and somehow dumber the closer you get to your garage door. Buckle up. You're about to find out just how illegal your perfectly average morning routine already is. 1. In Arizona, it's illegal to let your car roll backward. Yes, even on your own driveway. Apparently, gravity is a criminal mastermind in the state of Arizona, and your sloped driveway is its accomplice. You'd think the police have bigger problems, but no. Somewhere out there is an officer ready to ticket you because your old Honda decided to moonwalk 2 inches while you were juggling groceries. The logic is stunning. The state assumes that backward movement equals intent to cause chaos. Meanwhile, thousands of actual reckless drivers are out there drifting through intersections like it's Fast and Furious. Phoenix Drift. But sure, go after the guy whose parking brake coughed once and gave up. It's the only crime where doing absolutely nothing still counts as suspicious activity. You're basically guilty because your driveway exists on a hill. Beautiful. 2. In California, washing your car in the driveway can technically make you a criminal because of runoff. Yes, the same state that can't fix its housing crisis will absolutely crack down on your hose water touching a gutter. You'd think you were dumping nuclear waste instead of rinsing off 3 months of pollen and bird insults. The rule says the soapy water could contaminate storm drains, which is ironic considering California regularly dumps half the Pacific Ocean on itself every winter, with storms that turn streets into whitewater rafting courses. But sure, your half cup of biodegradable suds is the environmental apocalypse. Meanwhile, 800-pound SUVs leak mysterious fluids on asphalt every day like they're marking their territory. But no one blinks. The moral: in California, your car is allowed to be filthy, but your driveway must remain spiritually pure. 3. In Minnesota, it's illegal to park your car facing the wrong direction in your own driveway. The state that handles blizzards with the emotional tone of a mildly inconvenient sneeze draws the line at your car's orientation. If it's pointed toward the street instead of away, congratulations. You've committed a visual crime against society. No, it doesn't matter that it's private property. Minnesota law believes your Corolla has the power to corrupt the entire neighborhood by facing north instead of south, like some vehicular moral compass. Meanwhile, actual criminal masterminds are probably out there building igloo bunkers, but the police? They're too busy writing citations for the dangerous rogue facing the property line at a rebellious 27-degree angle. By this logic, every driveway is part runway, and every car is expected to follow proper takeoff protocol. 4. In New Jersey, warming up your car in your driveway is illegal because it pollutes the air. Ah yes, New Jersey, the state where the air already smells like a mixture of factory smoke, ambition, and whatever exits a turnpike at 4 p.m. But heaven forbid you idle your car for 2 minutes to defrost your windshield. According to the law, your harmless morning warm-up session is a threat to the environment. Meanwhile, an oil refinery 30 miles away is coughing black smog into the sky like a Victorian chimney and somehow remains perfectly legal. Your little Subaru, though, an eco-terrorist. The logic is breathtaking. It's illegal to sit in your car with the heater on, but completely fine to freeze to death while scraping ice like a medieval serf. That's the Garden State, nurturing plants and punishing drivers. 5. In Alabama, you can break the law simply by parking on your own lawn. This is a state where they'll let you deep fry anything that fits in a pot, but parking your sedan on grass? Absolutely not. The rule is meant to preserve neighborhood appearance, as if a single Toyota Camry on a patch of grass will send property values into a full emotional collapse. Meanwhile, entire houses can have broken shutters, collapsing fences, and Christmas decorations still up from 2012. But the real threat is your bumper touching a blade of Bermuda grass. It's amazing how Alabama trusts its citizens with fireworks, firearms, and deep fryers capable of industrial accidents, but draws the line at informal parking. Apparently, lawns have rights, and your car is violated. 6. In Florida, it's illegal to store trash cans in visible places, even on your property. Florida believes that if your garbage can is visible, society will unravel. Yes, this is the same state where people wrestle alligators for fun and occasionally toss meth-fueled squirrels at each other. But a trash bin on your driveway? That's a bridge too far. The law exists to protect aesthetic standards, as though the rest of Florida isn't already an ongoing collage of chaos and neon-colored questionable decisions. The best part is enforcement. HOA-style drive-by photography, as if your bin is part of a criminal lineup. Meanwhile, actual crime? Deal with it later. But your trash can being visible for 5 minutes after pickup? That's war. Florida priorities, baby. 7. In Colorado, you can break the law by having weeds over 6 inches high in your driveway cracks. Colorado, the land of scenic mountains, legalized relaxation, and lawns that cost more to water than a college tuition payment. Yet, if nature dares express herself between the concrete slabs of your driveway, here come the citations. The rule insists tall weeds are a public nuisance, as though crabgrass has been out here mugging pedestrians. Meanwhile, actual wildlife, bears, elk, and the occasional stoned raccoon, wander through neighborhoods like hikers who forgot their Airbnb codes. But no, the real menace is a 7-inch dandelion that grew because you forgot about it for a week. Colorado, where invasive weeds are criminals, but invasive tourists are economic contributors. 8. In Maine, it is technically illegal to leave your snow in the driveway if it spills into the road. Maine, where it snows 9 months a year and complains the other 3. The state has decided that the real problem with winter isn't the blizzards, ice storms, or frostbite. It's your snow being a few inches too social. If a single shovelful crosses the invisible boundary between your problem and the town's problem, you're suddenly a public menace. This, in a place where snowbanks routinely reach heights that could hide a small apartment complex. Imagine being fined because your natural disaster touched their natural disaster. Only Maine could punish you for the weather attacking you. 9. In Texas, you can be fined for having too many visible car tires on your property. Texas, land of freedom, barbecue, and enough trucks to start a personal convoy. But amazingly, those same trucks' spare tires? Highly suspicious. The law claims it's about reducing mosquito breeding sites, because nothing says biological hazard like a lonely Goodyear sitting near a garage. Meanwhile, entire swamps exist. But sure, let's blame your old Honda Civic's emergency donut. So now you have to hide your tires like they're contraband, which is ironic because Texas is also the state where people decorate their living rooms with actual longhorn skulls. But a rubber circle, that's where they draw the line. 10. In Illinois, you can break the law by blocking your own driveway. Yes, blocking yourself. You would think that if you pay property taxes, you should be allowed to park on your driveway however you want. Backwards, sideways, diagonally, like a drunk Tetris piece. But Illinois disagrees. If your bumper even slightly crosses the sidewalk or juts past the easement, you're a criminal mastermind sabotaging pedestrian flow. Meanwhile, half the state's sidewalks are cracked like tectonic plates after a budget cut. But you, with your tire 2 inches onto your own walkway, you are the threat. Illinois loves this rule because it's the easiest citation they'll ever write. Crime control, hard, parking control, lucrative, 11. In Pennsylvania, it's illegal to sweep leaves from your driveway into the street. Yes, the same state that gave us Hershey's chocolate and potholes the size of religious awakening experiences has decided leaves are the enemy. If a single one escapes your rake and flutters into the road, congratulations. You've committed a municipal sin. Never mind that fall in Pennsylvania looks like the trees are all quitting their jobs at once and dumping their resignation letters everywhere. You must control nature. You must fight the wind. You must prevent leaf crimes. It's amazing how the government can't fix a single highway, but expects you to maintain a leaf-free force field around your property. 12. In New York, honking your horn in your driveway can technically earn you a fine. New York, a state where honking is basically a love language, somehow bans it on private driveways because it disturbs the peace in New York. the city where ambulances, taxis, commuters, and pigeons all scream at levels measurable from space. But if you tap your horn to alert your teenager that it's time to leave, suddenly you're a noise polluter. Meanwhile, the neighbor's dog is performing opera at midnight, and nobody cares. It's almost adorable how New York believes peace still exists to disturb. 13. In Oklahoma, letting your car drip oil onto your driveway can break environmental laws. This is a state that extracts millions of barrels of oil from the earth every week. But your 2003 Ford leaking a tablespoon of engine juice? Wow, that's the environmental disaster worth regulating. The irony is phenomenal. Giant oil rigs decorate the landscape like metallic giraffes. Processing plants roar all night, and pipelines run across the countryside like metallic veins. But your driveway? That must remain pristine. It's like banning water balloons in a flooding city. Oklahoma truly believes in environmental responsibility as long as it's only applied to citizens and never corporations. 14. In Washington state, you can break the law by washing your driveway with a hose. Not your car, your driveway. Because apparently rinsing dirt into more dirt is a crime against nature. Washington wants you to sweep it, which is adorable, considering half the year the state is basically a rainforest cosplay event. The law exists to prevent harmful runoff, even though it rains so hard in Washington that anything harmful is diluted into emotional support water instantly. Meanwhile, your driveway turns into moss-coated slip and slide every November, but heaven forbid you try to clean it with a hose. That's environmental sabotage. 15. In Nevada, leaving a broken vehicle in your driveway for too long can make you a criminal. Nevada doesn't care if the casinos are blindingly bright at 4 a.m., or if the desert air contains enough dust to exfoliate your soul. But leave a dead car in your driveway. Suddenly, you're ruining the neighborhood. The law claims this prevents visual clutter, which is bold coming from a state where half the buildings look like they were designed during a fever dream in a neon factory. Meanwhile, Las Vegas literally has a half-scale Eiffel Tower. But Kevin's old Ford Ranger? That's where they draw the aesthetic line. If Nevada could, they'd tow your dignity for being non-operational. 16. In North Carolina, it's technically illegal to rev your engine excessively, which means that in the comfort of your own driveway, your car can be charged with disturbing the peace faster than an off-key karaoke singer at 2 a.m. And, of course, the law doesn't specify what excessive means. So, theoretically, even one rev could turn you into a mechanical anarchist. Meanwhile, your neighbor's leaf blower sounds like a helicopter taking off every Saturday morning. But that's apparently fine. Yet the second your engine clears its throat, the state treats you like you're auditioning for Fast and Furious, Suburban Menace. And suddenly you're the villain for daring to make a noise slightly louder than a squirrel sneezing, because nothing says public safety like criminalizing the sound of your car existing. 17. In Connecticut, you can break the law simply by letting your driveway get too dusty, because the state believes dirt particles are basically mini domestic terrorists plotting to infiltrate public airways. So, if your car kicks up a tiny cloud while backing out, some regulation from 1963 says you could technically be fined for creating airborne nuisances, which is hilarious considering half the state spends fall burning leaves like it's a part-time job. But the real danger apparently lies in the 3 ounces of driveway dust that briefly swirl into the atmosphere. It's almost poetic. Connecticut trusts you with property taxes, mortgages, and child-raising decisions, but absolutely not with the surface quality of the land under your tires, proving once again that regulation always finds the dumbest possible hill to die on. 18. In Ohio, it's illegal to leave a junk car in your driveway for too long. And by junk, the state means any vehicle that looks even slightly sad or sun-faded, because Ohio apparently thinks a mildly dented Nissan is a sign of societal collapse. So, if your car is missing a hubcap, or the paint is peeling like a sunburned tourist, congratulations. You're harboring contraband, and the city might send you a sternly worded letter informing you that your unmaintained vehicle is an eyesore threatening the stability of civilization itself, which is ironic because half the roads in Ohio look like they were paved with the concept of disappointment, yet the state pretends your weary little sedan is personally destroying community morale. Basically, if your car doesn't look ready for a dealership commercial, prepare to be scolded by the government. Devin Iolictus. In Georgia, it's illegal to blow grass clippings from your driveway into the street, because apparently Georgia believes a stray blade of grass is a biological hazard that could bring down an entire municipality. So, the moment your lawnmower sneezes toward the curb, you're technically staging an eco-crime. Meanwhile, giant pine cones the size of medieval weapons fall from the sky without consequence. But sure, let's crack down on lawn confetti. The law insists this is to prevent clogs and storm drains, as if Atlanta's floods are personally caused by Jim across the street accidentally flicking a handful of clippings toward the asphalt. It's a stunning level of misplaced confidence to imagine homeowners are responsible for weather infrastructure, but here we are, living in a world where a gust of wind can make you a criminal. 20. In Vermont, you can technically break the law by keeping a noisy pet in your driveway. And the law is generous enough to define noisy as anything that makes noise, meaning your dog, your cat, a rogue squirrel, or possibly even you could be in violation if you sneeze too assertively while taking out the recycling. Apparently, the state believes driveways should be soundproof sanctuaries, which is ironic considering Vermont's entire aesthetic is peaceful, but also full of cows that moo like they're filing emotional complaints with the universe. Yet your dog barking once at a falling leaf is the thing that threatens peace and order. The idea that noise is illegal on private property is peak bureaucracy, turning ordinary life into a potential misdemeanor every time a creature remembers it has vocal cords. 21. In Idaho, leaving your Christmas lights up too long, even if they're on your driveway, can land you a citation because nothing says holiday cheer like government-mandated deadlines, and apparently Idaho fears that twinkly lights after January 15th will trigger some kind of festive uprising. Never mind that half the year is pitch black and temperatures rival abandoned freezer units. The state has decided that extended joy is a threat to civilization. So, if you're tired, busy, or simply too frozen to climb a ladder, Idaho's stance is suffer. It's an incredible commitment to aesthetic discipline, enforcing holiday expiration dates with the energy of a gym teacher shouting at a kid to run faster. And somehow, we've created a world where lights are illegal, but personal flamethrowers for yard weeds are, in many cases, not. 22. In South Dakota, you can theoretically break the law by leaving building materials in your driveway for too long, because apparently South Dakota thinks a stack of wood is a visual crime that must be swiftly eradicated for the good of the community. So, if you're mid-project and life happens, weather, work, existential dread, suddenly your half-finished home improvement plan becomes a misdemeanor. The state claims it's about preventing debris, which is cute, because their wind can relocate an entire patio set across 3 zip codes. But sure, blame the lumber. And heaven forbid you have leftover bricks visible for more than 2 weeks, because that means you're impacting neighborhood quality, despite the fact that South Dakota contains miles of open land with exactly zero aesthetic oversight. It's government micromanagement at its pettiest. 23. In Mississippi, you can break the law simply by letting your driveway grass get too tall, because apparently the state believes tall grass is a sign of civilization unraveling, and officials act like each blade past 6 inches becomes a weapon of mass disorganization. Meanwhile, Mississippi summers could melt a mailbox, and people are out here fighting heat stroke just trying to mow a patch of land they don't even use, all because the local government fears unsightly vegetation. Ironically, this is a state with swamps so chaotic they look like nature threw a tantrum. But if your driveway edge dares look slightly wild, suddenly you're destabilizing the entire neighborhood. Nothing says public order like forcing citizens into mandatory combat with grass during peak humidity. 24. In Tennessee, you can technically break the law by having a loud conversation in your own driveway if it qualifies as disturbing the peace, which is ridiculous considering Tennessee invented entire genres of music built on people yelling their feelings into microphones. But apparently you laughing too loudly while standing by your car is the moment society collapses. The rule was written decades ago, back when noise complaint meant your neighbor's mule wouldn't shut up, yet somehow it still applies to modern suburbia. So, if you're saying goodbye to friends after a barbecue and someone laughs too hard at a dad joke, congratulations, you've become a disorderly conduct enthusiast. It's amazing how a state famous for honky-tonks and stadium concerts suddenly becomes a monastery the moment you step onto your driveway. 25. In Alaska, leaving your car running unattended in your driveway is illegal in some towns because Alaska, the place where moose wander into traffic like they pay taxes, is deeply concerned that your car warming up is a threat to order. The law is meant to prevent theft, which is hilarious because the only creature bold enough to steal your idling Subaru is a moose. And even then, it's probably just looking for snacks. Meanwhile, temperatures drop so low that starting your car without dying should count as an Olympic event. But Alaska insists you must stand guard like a frozen security officer while your engine tries to remember what warmth feels like. It's a classic case of legislation written by people who clearly have never met an Alaskan winter. 26. In Kansas, you can break the law by letting your car leak any fluid onto your driveway, because Kansas wants to maintain environmental integrity, which is rich coming from a state that spends tornado season playing dodgeball with entire houses. The law is intended to prevent chemicals from seeping into groundwater, which sounds noble until you remember that your driveway is probably the least porous thing in the entire region. But Kansas believes that a teaspoon of transmission fluid is basically a supervillain origin story. It's unclear how anyone is supposed to stop a leaking car, perhaps by scolding it sternly. But the message is clear. The state that once turned dust storms into historical events now fears the moisture content of a single driveway. 27. In Oregon, it's technically illegal to block a public sidewalk with your car, even the inch of sidewalk that crosses your driveway. Which means, if your bumper extends even a hair over that line, congratulations. You've committed a pedestrian-based war crime. Meanwhile, Oregon is known for its charmingly inconsistent sidewalks, some of which end suddenly like they lost the will to live. Yet the state expects your driveway parking abilities to be NASA-level precise. The law's intention is to keep sidewalks safe, which is great. Except most Oregonians walk in the bike lanes anyway because nature has reclaimed half the sidewalks with moss and existential dread. Still, if your sedan crosses the sacred boundary by a millimeter, prepare for judgment. 28. In Montana, it's illegal in many towns to leave your trash bins out too early or bring them in too late, because Montana apparently believes garbage cans control the moral compass of the neighborhood. So, if you forget and leave yours out until after work, the state treats you like you've orchestrated a garbage-themed rebellion against society. Meanwhile, actual wildlife, bears, coyotes, raccoons, with the confidence of New York club bouncers, routinely knock over bins and throw midnight buffet parties, but they face no consequences, while you, a tax-paying human, are penalized for bin placement timing. It's truly humbling when you realize the local grizzly enjoys more leniency than your recycling schedule. 29. In Virginia, you can break the law by selling anything from your driveway without a permit, meaning the simplest yard sale instantly becomes an underground black market event in the eyes of the state. One folding table of unwanted knickknacks, and suddenly you're basically running a rogue marketplace that threatens economic stability, despite the fact that you're selling old mugs and VHS tapes no one has owned a player for since 2006. The law is meant to prevent unauthorized commerce, which is hilarious considering half the state hosts farmers markets where people sell jars of jam that look like they were made in a cauldron in the woods. Yet your attempt to get rid of a lamp shaped like a pineapple requires bureaucratic permission. 30. In Louisiana, it's technically illegal to blast music loudly from your car while in your driveway, and loudly is defined so vaguely it could mean anything from full-volume rap to a gentle Taylor Swift chorus played slightly too enthusiastically. It's a wild contrast considering Louisiana's cultural identity is literally built on parades, brass bands, and spontaneous public noise that could wake the dead. Yet your driveway is expected to be a sanctuary of silence so pure that a whisper echoes. The law's enforcement varies, but the idea that playing music on your own property could be treated like a criminal act is peak Louisiana energy. A state where celebrations spill into streets with zero warning, but a single driveway speaker must be oppressed for the sake of peace. 31. In New Mexico, you can technically break the law by repairing your own car in your driveway without proper permits, because the state fears that amateur mechanics are the gateway drug to full neighborhood collapse. So, if you dare change your brake pads on a Saturday afternoon, congratulations. You're running an unauthorized automotive repair empire. The law was meant to stop people from turning their homes into unofficial junkyards. But like most regulations, it overcorrects so hard that even popping your hood for more than 10 minutes looks suspicious. Meanwhile, half the state's highways contain potholes deep enough to store a medium-sized goat. But New Mexico has decided your driveway is the place where mechanical order must be preserved at all costs, turning DIY maintenance into a covert operation. And that's it. A full tour of driveway-level insanity, proving humans can't be trusted with property lines, lawn tools, or gravity. If you've seen laws even dumber, drop them in the comments so we can all lose hope together. And go ahead, vote for the stupidest one, because at this point, democracy deserves a stress test. Like, subscribe and brace yourself. There's always weirder stuff waiting in the next video.